mentioned a lot of mentors. Mention somebody you probably didn't mention during your speech, or if you did mention, maybe there's a little bit more to why they were a key mentor in your development. Earl, I'll start with you.
Well, I would start with a gentleman that used to own a baseball team. His name was Drayton McLean.
Drayton McLean.
Yep. Drayton, I met him in 1994. If you probably knew, at that time he had just sold his company to Walmart, and he was interested in buying a baseball team. And so he had no clue what baseball's about, but he was a smart guy. So I did fortunately get to work with him on the ballpark there in Houston. And at that time it was called Enron Field, so you can imagine a little legacy with that project, because now it's Minute Maid Park. And I always remember about Drayton is that he was such a hard charger. I mean, he never looked backwards, never. And you know, one day I showed up for a design meeting and he gave me a little postcard like about that big, and it had like 10 things on it. And the only word he wanted me to read was the bottom word, and it said magic, and that was it. And then I realized that sometimes vision could be as simple as one word. It doesn't have to be a building or anything else. And so from that, I've kind of learned that keep a clear message and keep moving forward is a great approach to how we do work.
Good stuff. Ron, mentor and why?
A gentleman by the name of Bill Creasy. Bill actually produced the first Super Bowl for CBS. Bill hired Steve Bornstein at ESPN and served as really Steve's consigliere, really till the day he passed away, but during all those formative years at ESPN and beyond. And he was just someone who, if a young person had an idea, he would help them get that idea heard by people who could then help make that happen. And also someone that if you messed up, you really weren't looking forward to having to call Bill to tell him about that. So really, he wasn't just a pat on the back person. And he was absolutely a huge mentor to me.
Great. Bob Kane?
Well, I had two mentors that hired me. But the most interesting mentor, I think, for this group would be Billie Jean King. I was a young agent at IMG, and Billie Jean decided that I should be her agent and manager. And to me, she was an inspirational mentor, and it was a mentor by her deeds. You know, I mean, to me, she was the most important athlete of the 20th century. She changed the world for half the population in sports. You know, when she was battling for Title IX, 300,000 girls were playing high school sports. Today, I think 4 million are playing high school sports. So she kind of dragged me along and kept climbing different mountains, creating women's tennis, the tour, then the Women's Sports Foundation, Women's Sports magazines, and she showed me through her work and her tireless efforts that you pretty much, you know, could do anything. So she inspired me to be better and do more, and she was a very special lady.
And that you were how old at that when she dragged you along?
I was 29, 30, 31. I was with her when, if for all those that saw the movie, Battle of the Sexes, I was there when Marilyn Barnett went after her and everything else, and the way she handled that was amazing as well. So, no, she changed the world for women all over the world, and then all the women great athletes want to meet Billie Jean King, and to be a part of that at such a young age, you know, was pretty awesome, actually.
I think in our magazine, when we asked people who is a figure you'd still like to meet in kind of historical sports business, men and women say Billie Jean King.
Billie Jean,
still,
yeah. No.
Buffy, who stands out to you and why?
I'm going to say, so I started my speech by saying that I was going to grow up and be a housewife and take care of babies and play bridge and get dressed up in the afternoon. My mentor, I'm going to say, is my mother. My mother, and then the question is, what happened? My mother became an entrepreneur. So she was pretty aggressive and self-assured, and certainly gave me a lot of confidence to be able to do whatever I could to be able to change the world in the sports business. She was incredibly supportive to that. Went to every U.S. Open tennis championship when I was working at Wilson and IMG, and very supportive there. And then even when I was doing some networking events when she's retired and my stepfather was with her, drag him along to the the Miami networking event. And she said, Buffy, as long as you can help somebody, keep doing it.
Very good. Kevin?
I talked about two of my great mentors, Mike Slive, who hired me out of law school, and Dick Vermeil. But, recently over the last couple of years, I would probably say Ken Chenault. And I met with Ken in 2004, 2005, right where we were in the middle of the Vikings deal.
Okay.
I went to meet with him, one from a potential investment opportunity for him, and also just to learn as much as I could about American Express. So we've stayed in contact over the years. And what I just have learned from him, I always looked up to him. One of the reasons why I carry American Express cards, and back to what we talked about earlier, is just from a diverse and inclusion standpoint, he was really the first African-American executive that I recalled on Wall Street in my time, who was in the financial services industry, wasn't in a soft industry, very complicated, through really rocky times. And if anyone who knows Ken or spent time around him, he always carries himself with a certain air of style and grace and class. And so I've looked to him. And the other thing that I've learned the last couple of years, he left when he was on top, because most highly successful people make a lot of money, always stay too long. And he left on top. So I really admire him. I look up to him. I consult with him. And he's someone that I really want to grow old with.